Welcome. I'm Gary Parr, and you are listening to watching Cranks and Cogs, a new channel for St. Louis area cyclists and cycling personalities. With me today, our first guest, our first effort at this, Mattew Bird, and he is the organizer, founder of the St. Louis Randonneurs. Matt, welcome.
Hey Gary, how are you, man?
Hey, doing okay, doing okay. All right, we're going to get to that long distance riding here in a minute. But I was just up in your area, up north, Weldon Springs, riding on the Bush property the other day, and boy, you guys got some nice roads up there. That's really nice.
Yeah, yeah, we really do. And I mean, I ride around the Bush Wildlife Preserve a lot. You know, you go around looking at all the ammunition bunkers from back in the war.
Yep.
But once you figured out how to get to and from the Katy Trail up there, it's limitless. You know, you can ride forever.
Right. Yeah. No, it's nice. I enjoyed that. For me, it's I live in Baldwin, so a bit of a ride to get there, which I have done. But usually I just get in the car and drive up. It's easier. Which
Yeah, it's a bit lumpy, isn't it? From Baldwin, you got to go past Babler and all that to get there.
yeah,
It
yeah,
gets a little lumpy.
yeah. That was when I just moved here 3 years ago, and I lived at northwest of Chicago forever.
Uh-huh.
And so that was just farm roads, square mile grid farm roads where the biggest hill was over an expressway. And I got here in Baldwin and Wildwood, and holy smokes, my first ride, I, I came home, I was about ready to cry because I thought I'd never be able to ride out here. And
You say that, but we'll get to this in a bit. But last year I went up to Woodstock, Illinois, Woodstock,
yep,
and we did a ride all the way up to New Glarus, and then over to Milton, and then back down to Woodstock. You start getting up into Wisconsin though, and there is some serious ups and downs.
yeah, oh yeah, no, I know. I've tried a couple of times. Not now for me to go back. I'd have no trouble, I don't think. I'm just so used to them. Yeah. Well, that's interesting, Woodstock, because our son lives in Huntley, which so you were just north, about a half hour north of him. So now I got to get that route so I can when we go
It's it's
visit.
a it's a big one, man. It's a
Yeah.
big one, but it's a
Yeah.
big one.
So how did you get started riding? What have you been riding a long time, or is it kind of a more recent thing?
It's in a serious capacity. It's a more recent thing. I mean, I guess I've always been a what people would determine as a fair weather rider or a recreational rider. You know, you go spin out 20 miles on the Katy Trail on a hybrid. You know, people are like, oh, I've ridden my bike today. So I guess I was always one of those people. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, I texted my wife and said, hey, I've done 18 miles today, and I was so proud of myself. You know, it was a big deal.
Right.
And so I guess I've always done that. I've always been interested in just riding my bike. But it when COVID hit back in 2020, I wanted to learn a new skill because I was sat in the basement. We just had newborn twins, so we were all bunkered down in the basement with the 1 year olds, and I was like going stir crazy and had cabin fever, and I wanted to learn a new skill. So I went out and got a GoPro, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to learn how to do video editing. And I didn't know what I was going to make movies about or videos about, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to mount it on my bike and go for a bike ride. And so I did that, and they were awful, Gary. They were awful videos. They're still on YouTube. You can watch them if you want, but they're awful. So I started doing research on how to video bike rides, how to make them better, and I stumbled across this video on YouTube called London, Edinburgh, London. And it was an organized event, and it happens every 4 or 5 years where a bunch of idiots ride from London, England to Scotland, back to London in 5 days.
Uh huh.
And obviously I'm originally from England, so I was interested in it and looking at the scenery and everything. But I just thought, what an adventure! What an adventure that is! I want to do that. I want to do that. So I started researching Randonneurs, and there's the national body, which is Randonneurs USA, and I joined it, and I started seeing some of the rides they put on, and I felt a little overwhelmed. People had started doing 2, 3, 4, 600 kilometer rides. And as I say, I was doing 18 miles on the Katy Trail, and I thought that was a big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
So, so it took me a year to basically prepare myself for my first brevet, and those are the events are called. They're called brevets,
Yeah.
and I realized I could do it. The TrailNet Ride the Rivers event 2 years ago, where it started in St. Charles, did a big old loop, and came back on the Grafton Ferry, and then went back to St. Charles. It went by chain of rocks, Alton, Grafton, back on the ferry, and it was 100 miles. But I actually rode my bike from Weldon Spring to St. Charles, did the Ride the Rivers event, and then rode my bike back to Weldon Spring, and I did 240 kilometers that day. And I thought, okay, I can do this. This
Uh-huh.
is something I can do. And then I last year I signed up for my first event, and it was down in Alabama in February, because I figured going to Alabama in February the weather would be okay, but it was still freezing. And I did my first official 200 kilometer ride, and then last April or May there was a 300 kilometer ride out in Kansas City, out in Kansas, and it went from Overland Park, Lawrence, Leavenworth, Aitchison, Effingham, and then back. It was 300 kilometers, and that was the biggest ride I'd ever done at that point. But there was no local group doing it.
Yeah.
There was no local group doing it, and I figured if I tried to set something up, then I would ride my bike more.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're driving to Alabama, you're taking a day to drive there. You're taking a day to do the event, and taking a day to drive back. You're taking 3 days to do one day's ride. I could spend my time staying in St. Louis and spend 3 days riding my bike, maybe,
Right. Right.
rather
Yeah.
than 2 days driving. So I'm not going to sit here and say I am an endurance athlete or anything like that. I'm just trying to get something off the ground to help me ride my bike more,
Yeah.
and hopefully, get a couple more people into it as well. I
So
mean, it's a,
take
it's
us
a
take us back a little bit, because now,
okay.
I mean, I've done centuries. One year, many years ago, I did 7 centuries in a year, but I've never
Hmm.
done more than 100, 101, 102 miles. Uh, and those were in the Illinois farm roads, so they were all dead flat for the most part.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you're talking about some serious distances. Did you build up to that, or how,
Yeah. Uh,
yeah? Because I mean,
but,
a lot of people say 18 miles, they'd be proud of that,
mhm.
and should be. But you start clearing 100, 200 miles. That's some serious riding, and it takes some building up.
I wouldn't say fitness wise it wasn't really the problem. I mean, there is a time limit on these rides, but typically if you go at 15 or 16 kilometers an hour, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting into lactic threshold. No one really cares about your watts or you know things like that. You're not getting out of breath. You're not getting into anaerobic difficulties. If you can just steady away, ride your bike at a moderate pace, you can do this. The issue I found was the first time I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to get up early in the morning and I'm going to ride my bike and I'm going to go as far as I can. I'm training for this. And I went out and I crossed the Golden Eagle Ferry and I went up into Calhoun County. And after about 60 miles, I realized that my saddle is not made for me.
Oh,
And that was the first of many realizations that my bike is not geared up for sitting on all day.
right, right.
And I, I had more of an issue getting my bike to the point where it's comfortable for a long duration, and than I ever did with my fitness or anything like that. So far, I'm on my third different saddle. I changed my handlebars on a whim just to see if it's a little bit better or a little bit more comfortable. I've changed my stem. Um, every time I found I'd gone a little bit further, like I went from a metric century to an imperial century to 200K to 250K, there was something else that hurt that needed fixed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have spent upwards of $300, $400, $600 at a time just so I don't hurt.
Right.
You do 300K, you don't know until you've done it what happens to your body. I did my first 300K last year in a day, and my arm, I had ulnar nerve damage to my hand that didn't go away for 6 weeks. So I looked into that, and I bought a suspension stem and from Redshift, and there's another $130 I'll never see again.
Oh,
So
but is that that's a good investment if I ever made one. Holy smokes.
I swear by Red. I'm not endorsed with them. I don't get paid but I will swear by their stuff. Their suspension seat post is a little bit of comfort you want during an all day ride, and their suspension stem, top quality stuff. I swear by it.
Yeah,
sorry.
I put their stem on my gravel bike, and wow, I think I have no idea anymore how much it saves my shoulders and hands. And you don't even notice it. It's amazing.
I swear by it. It was night and day. But you don't know that these things are going to hurt until you do the event, and you get back to the hotel afterwards, and you're like, I can't feel my hand.
Yeah. But that's so interesting that you would talk about that, because I remember long ago when I started riding, and there was no way I was going to wear those Lycra shorts with a big pad in the butt until you go 30 miles, and then you realize why people wear those. And
absolutely.
Yeah. I appreciate, as the distance extends, all these things that you say, there's no way I'll wear those. You realize that's why people do it. Yeah. It's,
And the thing is, Gary, I'm a big guy. I'm 230 pounds. I'm a big, corn-fed Midwest guy now. Even though I was born in the UK, I have lived the American diet for 20 years, and I'm a big boy. And the thought of me putting on spandex and Lycra just
right.
But you know what? You start riding your bike, and you start getting serious about it. And you're like, what would be really handy if I had some pockets in the back of my shirt.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Or you know what would be handy is if my shorts didn't fall down around my, and then you realize you're gonna have to put bibs on and wear a Lycra shirt because they've got pockets in the back.
Yep.
You are a little you're only self-conscious about it the first time. After that, you don't really give a toss.
Right.
But
yeah. Oh yeah, it's interesting how that stuff creeps into your gear. It first the shorts, then the shoes, then the all those things creep in, and pretty soon you're in full kit and feeling comfortable. Yeah.
But you're watching your bank balance absolutely dwindle because of it.
Right. Yeah, because that's one of the other lessons you learn is you buy cheap, and then you go again, and just go get the good stuff because it's not going to hold up. Yeah.
Buy cheap, buy twice.
Yep.
And Cycling, honestly, someone said this to me once. They said cycling is the most expensive way to get from A to B for free. And
Yeah.
then there's not a
Yep.
truer phrase out there.
Oh, that's a good point. Yep. Yeah, and I'll say to people who are watching, there's a thumbs up with little bubbles showing up. Sorry, we don't know where it's coming from, so just ignore it. Um, so, all right. So today, now that you're riding long distances,
Hmm.
tell us. So you've got the redshift stem and the seat post, and what are all the things put on your bike to make things go more comfortably?
Um, so first things first, I've got a Trek Domani. That's my go-to. That's my pride and joy. My
Uh
Trek Domani. I bought it from Momentum Cycles on Mid Rivers Mall Drive. Before I even knew what kind of riding I wanted to do, I was like, I want that one. That's a nice one. It's red. I bought the red bike,
Yeah.
and then I realized I couldn't do these distances without making serious improvements. The first thing I did is I went out and got a Brooks saddle, a Brooks B17 saddle. I absolutely swear by it.
Bravo. Exactly.
The
Yes.
the Brook
For me
um,
too. Yep.
the
Yep.
Brooks B17. I will. That's a necessity. Second of all, I did the stem and the seat post with the little bit of the suspension. I realized that my neck hurt a lot while I
Uh
was riding my bike, and it turns out that my handlebars were too wide. I was kind of hunching my
oh.
shoulders back, so I spent $150 to narrow my handlebars by this much.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So I went from 44 down to 40 centimeter handlebars, and then I bought cheap. I got the aluminium ones or the steel ones, and they were too rigid. There was no play in them, so I went out and bought more, a carbon set, which was more expensive. So I got different handlebars.
Yep.
One of my proudest investments that I got is
Oh, okay.
a dynamo hub for my front wheel, and it hooks up to my front light, and my front light is called a sine wave beacon, and there's a USB output to the sine wave beacon, so I can charge my phone, I can charge a battery, a GoPro, I can charge anything on the go while I'm riding, and at night I can just turn my light on, and I don't have to worry about batteries. I don't have to um, be aware that I'm never going to be seen.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know,
Talk about that because one of the reasons I bought my gravel bike, I have a checkpoint, and but I bought the aluminum one rather than carbon
mhm,
because I wanted to be able to bike pack with it and not
mhm,
have to make sure the carbon didn't get hit from the side somehow. And I know I know all the stories about carbon. My road bike's full carbon. I know all that
mhm.
stuff, but I just wanted a metal bike to do that kind of work. And I've wondered about the dynamo hub. Do you notice it when you ride?
No, not at
No,
all.
none.
They say it takes 2 to 3 watts off you, but I mean it's minimal. I mean, again, I'm 230 pounds. I'm 6 foot. I'm eating cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
In fact, the easiest way for me to gain 2 watts would be to stop eating for a week, and lose a bit of weight.
that's what I always say. Yeah, because I'm not exactly a lightweight either. And yeah, okay, that
Hmm.
2 or 3 watts. Then quit eating burgers. Yeah, yeah. Oh well.
So I was out in St Charles. I went out. I told the wife, I said I'm gonna go out for a night ride, and I had my light and I had my backlight, and I just started riding up towards Portage de Sioux. And in the middle of Highway B in St Charles, and there's nothing around there. It's on Highway B. It's just the farms. My front light gave out,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, now I am in trouble. So I never wanted that to happen again. I
Yeah.
never wanted to be without a light. And typically I will. I've got my top tube bag. I've got a saddle bag, and sometimes if it's a longer event, I'll put a frame bag on there as well underneath my top tube, and I'll always stick an extra light in there just in case
Right.
the worst happens. I like my rear light is just a $15 cat eye, and it takes regular AAA batteries. So
Okay.
if the light does go out on me while I'm on the road, I can jib into a gas station and buy AAA batteries. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not having to deal with USB chargers or anything like that.
Right.
I can just replace on the go.
So
But
I assume that in doing this now, I mean, I'm hearing it that you quickly learned that you need to have backups for things. You've got to identify.
backups,
Yeah. Yeah.
backups for backups, absolutely.
Right.
Because and that's again, that's just all been trial and error. You don't have to be a long distance rider to do that. You just have to. You can go out for 20 miles, 30 miles, and you know realize you need backups for your. You run out of patches, or you know your CO2 cartridges empty, and we've all been there. It doesn't matter what
Right.
type of riding you do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You learn. Yeah. As I always say, and I don't want to make that call to home for my wife to get in the car and come get me. I don't.
I don't want to do it again. She doesn't want me to do
Oh.
it again. I thought the first couple of times she was okay with it, but then she's like, Matt, you know, come on.
Yeah.
I can't be driving out to Herman to come pick you up.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to make that call. No. So you start to, it sounds to me like you started to discover that to sit on your bike for hours and ride long distance was just enjoyable, a good release, chance to just forget life's whatevers.
I think we can all agree that sitting on your bike and enjoying the world at a slow pace is a good mental health break. I think we can all agree with that, especially if you don't have to worry about anything else. If your route is all laid out for you, you've got enough food, you've got enough water, you know where the next gas station is. You don't have to think about anything else other than turning the pedals.
Right.
And and you know to be able to just take a day and just ride your bike, it's such a mental health break. And I'm sitting here, I'm telling you, man, I've got two. I'm 48 years old. I've got two 6-year-old twins. Okay, I need a mental health break every once in a while. I am tired, you know. So you know how bad raising twins must be if I would rather go ride my bike 180 miles.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so to this randonneur thing, so
Yeah.
you need something to give you a little push to do these long distances, but even though you enjoy them, so the randonneur thing, there used to be a group here in the St.
Mm-hmm.
Louis area, and then that I read a post from I must have been the guy who was organizing it at the time, said that he just didn't feel like he could do that because of safety issues.
I yeah yeah
You know, coming from Illinois, where I once was, I I'll get hit tomorrow, but I have not felt more safe than I do out here. People at least are used to seeing cyclists a lot and seem to at least be aware. I mean, there's always there's always that one person, but I feel like I can go out on the road and really not worry about it too much. I mean, you got to pay attention, but so that was interesting to me that he said that at least this is what I read, that he had shut it down. And I thought, boy, what a shame, because this whole randonneur thing is interesting to me. It's a whole different world.
it is a niche part of an already niche sport. But I met Dennis Smith. I mean, I when I started researching the sport, I went on the same website and saw Dennis's website, and I tried to find him, and I ended up emailing his son, who's a lawyer.
Uh huh.
And I said, "This is the most random email you're ever going to get, but I'm looking for Dennis Smith, who used to be the regional brevet organizer for Randonneurs USA. Do you know him? Do you know?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's my dad." So Dennis emailed me, and we actually went and met and had a coffee, and he gave me a wealth of his information, and um, he gave me a flash drive of maps and cue sheets and routes and previous members and insurance waivers. He gave me all this stuff, and he was very, very happy that someone was taking it on.
Okay.
He was very, very happy that someone else was having a go at putting something together. I mean, he still gets out and rides his bike. He sticks to Madison County trails for the most part now, and
Okay.
he's gotten into paddling. I think he likes to do that Missouri 360 paddling event. So he still does the endurance stuff, but it's not so much cycling as it once was. But so that his group stopped just before COVID, and that was just as I was getting into it.
Okay.
So I kind of missed the boat with him. But he's a super nice guy, and he had, from what I can gather, quite a good showing of people and good events. The only thing that they didn't have is that they had one route. They had one 200-kilometer route, they had one 300-kilometer route, they had one 400-kilometer route, they had one 600-kilometer route. They had no variation.
Ah.
They all started in Edwardsville and finished in Edwardsville, and they all went the same way. And I was talking to the guy that runs the Kansas City group, and he says, you need more variation than that. You need a flat route for the flat guys. You need a lumpy route for the climbers. You need a scenic route for cafe rides. You need to spice it up a bit and make. You need gravel routes for the gravel riders now. You need a variation. So I've only put on a couple of events this year because I'm out. When I'm on my bike, I'm actually looking for more places we can ride, rather than the established routes we've got.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back to the beginning now. So you decide that this needs to get put back on the map. This randonneuring group needs to get started again. Let's explain to those who don't know what is this all about. I mean, this is long distance riding, but already I've learned that people should not be intimidated. It's not for people who can go out and ride 25 miles an hour for 8 hours. Take us through what's involved and how people participate.
Okay, essentially, let's keep it simple. Let's say we're going to do a 200-kilometer route, and your time limit for 200 kilometers is 13 and a half hours. That's an average pace of 15.2k an hour. And the route, at the beginning of the route, you'll be given a GPS track, you'll be given a cue sheet, and you'll be given a card. And this is called the brevet card.
So let me back you up. So basically, if you can ride 10, 11 miles an hour, you can do this.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an important point to make, that this is not a speed merchant thing.
The only person you're racing against is yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, so you get this card, this brevet card, and on the route, you'll have certain controls that you have to stop at and get signed. And typically it's a gas station. You'll stop at a gas station, you'll buy a bottle of water and a granola bar, and you'll ask the cashier and say, hey, I'm doing this long distance bike ride today. I need to prove that I was here and I was on the route. Can you sign and time this for me? And they'll just stick their initials next to where their gas station is and put the time you were there, and that proves that you did the route. And it's still a bit old school in that regard. I mean, with Strava and Ride with GPS and Garmin Connect now, there's other ways to prove you did the route, but that keeps it, old school to a degree. And if you do a 2, 3, 4, and 6 kilometer ride in a year, you can start qualifying for these really big events. And the big one is Paris-Brest Paris, and that's the largest amateur bike ride in the world. It predates the Tour de France, and that's the granddaddy of them all. And if you start doing these are what we do, are essentially qualifiers for these big, large global events. I mentioned London, Edinburgh, London. The big one is Paris-Brest Paris, but there's also a couple in the US. The Boston, Montreal, Boston was a big one back in the day. So the events that we put on at a regional level can all be used as qualifiers for these bigger, longer routes. And you start getting awards and medals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it is, you do get bragging rights. If you can say, I can ride 300 kilometers in a day, that in itself is not a qualifier for anything. That's a major achievement. If you can ride 200 kilometers in a day, it's huge. And I never
Yeah.
thought I'd ever be able to do it. But now honestly, the what used to scare me, 3 years ago, the thought of doing that, I can do it pretty much now at a whim. I mean, sometimes it hurts. Sometimes I don't get my nutrition right. There's always something. There's always something going to go wrong. And whilst you sit here and say, anyone can ride 11 miles an hour all day, that time limit also factors in for mechanicals. That time limit is also factoring in all your stops for food and water and bathroom breaks. And believe me, something always goes wrong. Whether I think the first time I forgot to press the GPS button on my navigation
Oh, I
Garmin.
hate when that happens. I
So
hate
so
that.
every so everyone's bolted off and they're off into the sunset, and I'm sat there waiting for my route to load, and I'm like,
Yeah.
The second time I was half an hour late. That was fun.
Yeah.
I was half an hour late, so I'd already lost half an hour.
Right.
Um,
Well, and I think this is a point to make with these. Now, and I know some of it because I follow YouTube influencer Katie Kookaburra, who does a lot of
okay,
those.
yeah. She's
Yeah.
from my home. She's from my hometown in England, North Manchester,
Oh,
and
okay.
I started following her because the scenery of all the
Yep.
of all the stuff that she films is amazing, and
Yeah.
I get homesick watching it.
Oh, I'm sure
But
you do. Well, yeah.
Katie's great.
Oh, she's phenomenal. I followed her for years. But for me, I've been to London twice, and you can keep that. But then once you see England outside of London, it's like, oh, take me there. Let me ride my bike. It's beautiful. Um,
I think, Gary, one of my biggest regrets in life is that I kind of wasted my youth in that regard. I go
yeah,
back now and I look at all those quiet, picturesque farm roads sweeping through the green countryside, and I'm going, why did I never take advantage of this when I lived here?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's gorgeous
but
country. Oh, it's gorgeous. So okay, but now I want to get back to this. Paris, Brest, Paris, and some of
mhm,
these others is something you can shoot for, but
absolutely,
that's not the purpose though. I mean, the purpose is to go out, ride with your friends, do these long distance things, and experience that. And if you never go to Paris, who cares? I mean,
yeah, yeah,
it's
and
just the experience of it.
yeah, and there's other awards you can get. We have awards for if you do one event a month for a calendar year. We have awards if you get so many states in a year and things like that. There really is something for everyone.
Hmm.
You know, we will put on 100-kilometer events. To try and get people into the sport so they can kind of dip their toe into it. But if all I ever did going forward was 200 and 300-kilometer brevets, I'd be fine with that. That's a huge achievement for me, and
Yeah,
that's a huge achievement for anyone. And it is all self-supported. It is all you're on your own to a degree, but we essentially do ride with other people. You find people at your own pace, and you kind of stick together, and then you may catch up with another group at a control, or pass them, and then they'll overtake you as you stop for water and things like that. You go at your own pace, and there is camaraderie there,
yeah,
but there's also solitude if you want it. It takes me a good 20 miles or so just to get my legs back into the swing of things and my body to go, oh, we're doing this again, are we? So I typically want to be on my own at the beginning, and then I'll get a little bit more sociable with people as the ride progresses. So if you're a solitary cat, that's fine. If you're a chatty Cathy and you want a bit of friendship and camaraderie on the road, there's there's people who like that too. There really is something for everyone.
I'm so glad to hear that it takes an hour or so to really kind of get going,
Yeah,
because it does for me. And
absolutely.
I have to just go my own pace. And eventually the legs come around and then we can go. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm not alone there. Yeah.
No, no, you are not alone.
All right. So take us from the beginning. I want to do this. What do
Hmm.
I have to do so that I can get involved and get the information? I got to join something.
Yes. So if you just let's take you back 5 years and you're researching this and instead of landing on Dennis's old page, you land on my new page. It's stlrandonneurs.org.
Right.
And we have our little website there, and there's the upcoming event schedule. And if you click on the upcoming event schedule, the first thing it's going to ask you is if you are a member of Randonneurs USA. That is the big criteria. To be covered under our liability, you have to be a member of the national body. So you have to jump over to rusa.org and join. It's about $30 for the year, and it takes about 2 days for your membership to be approved. But but once you're a member of Randonneurs USA, then you are then cleared to ride our events. And so then, once you're a Randonneurs USA member, you can then jump over back to our website and you can go through our upcoming events. And we've got one coming up at the end of August. I think it's August 25th, if memory serves, and that's a 200K event. And the next thing you'd have to do is to sign the waiver. And that's simple enough. You do that online, and then the waiver comes to me, and I forward it back to Randonneurs USA and say, okay, Gary's just signed up. He's going to do this ride with us. On that page, there's also a GPS track, which will link you over to Ride with GPS, which has got a cue sheet, the map, and something for your Garmin to plug into. It's also got the start. The start time is really important. As I told you, I was half an hour late once. so this,
Oops.
and and then the next stage is that usually about a week, 5 days to a week before a ride, I'll email everyone that's signed up and say, hey, just to confirm, 7 a.m. start. We're starting in Oak Vass, Missouri. The ride will take us through Montgomery City, Vandalia, up to back to Ladonia, and then back to Oak Vass for the finish. I'll typically give people ideas on where they can park and where we can have a post-ride coffee and debrief afterwards. But and that's really about it. Once you've done the ride, I will take your brevet card off you. I will have it verified by RUSA, and they'll give you a certificate number. The results will be posted on the website on your profile on the Randonneurs USA website, and that's a record of your achievement. And it will also, as you do more of the events, it'll become a growing list of what your achievements are. So that, let's say you did sign up for one of the bigger, longer rides. The organizer of the event can log on and see that, oh yeah, you've got a history here of doing these events. I'm happy to invite you to one of our longer events.
Okay. So, all right, so 200 kilometers, 120 miles roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the shortest? I mean, brevet is like brief or short. Is that basically the shortest event that we do?
We also do 100-kilometer rides. They're called populaires. They're 100 kilometers. They're 60 odd miles.
Yeah.
And we typically use those to allow the newbies to come out and dip their toe in the water.
Okay.
It's a more manageable event for a new rider, but it has all the same brevet card, cue sheet. It has all the same bells and whistles that a longer brevet event has. But typically the 200 kilometers is the shortest route that is a qualifier for something else down the line. Yes.
Okay, so 200 kilometers, and we have what, 12, 13 hours to do it in?
13 and a half hours.
13 and a half hours. Then we work our way up. So all right, I did 200. Then do I do a 300? How does that progress?
300 kilometers is the next one up, and that you have 20 hours to do that. And I did my first 300 kilometers last year.
Uh-huh.
It was the hardest thing I've ever done. As I say, I was half an hour late to begin with. I did it in 18 and a half hours, and I was absolutely destroyed afterwards. I was destroyed. So after 300 kilometers, then you've got a 400k ride, and you've got 27 hours to do that in. And people hate doing 400k rides because it's too far to do in a day. But you don't really have any time to get any sleep.
Yep.
People, and I've not done one yet. I'll be straight up honest. One of the reasons why I set the group up is so that I can organize it and then do it. Is that I figured I would ride more if I did one of these, but I've not done a 400k yet, and I'm kind of umming and ahhing about it because people hate it. People hate it. I know people that would much rather do with the next step up is a 600 kilometer ride.
Okay.
And people would rather do 600k than 400 because you can do 400k and then get some good sleep and then do the other 200k the next day.
Okay. I see. So the 400 gets you right in that gray area where you don't quite know what to do.
Yeah, and, do you stop and have a couple hours sleep, or do you just power on through? I can't remember offhand. I think I'm going to say it's 36 hours to do a 600 kilometer event.
Okay.
And people will typically split it up into 350, 400k the first day, get 2 or 3, 4 hours sleep, and then do the rest once they've woken up.
Okay.
And for those big events, what they'll do is they'll do it like a clover leaf. They'll start. Let's say they'll start in Edwardsville.
Yeah.
They'll do the first route the first day will be 300k to the south, and it'll bring you back to the hotel, and then you can get a couple hours sleep, and then do the rest of the route, which will be 250k to the north the next day.
Yeah.
So it'll be a kind of geared up to get you back to the hotel, so you have a couple hours sleep, and then finish the event the next day.
Yeah.
And
now, talk about gear. You just need a bike that's in good shape and that fits you and that you can sit on for hours and hours and hours. If you're overnight, do we bring a sleeping bag, or it sounds like a lot of people just find a hotel somewhere and book a night? How take me through that whole process. I mean, do I have to get a bunch of camping gear here?
No, no,
Okay.
not at all. I mean, obviously, you need a bike. Let's go through all your equipment. You need bikes, you need lights that work, and then we start getting into the safety equipment. We typically, I want people to wear high visibility stuff. So, you have those gilet jackets,
Right.
that are fluorescent yellow with the ProVis strips on the back. We're looking for some like a high vis jacket, especially in the evening. And the regulations also say ankle straps, high vis ankle straps.
Okay.
For when it's dark. I know people that do take all the gear out there, all the camping gear. They have a little bivouac sack and a sleeping bag or one of them emergency blankets and things like that. But there are people that will also recce the route beforehand and find where the nearest Holiday Inn is to the halfway point.
Okay.
There is no hard and fast rules. It's essentially self-supported long-distance bike rides and you're on your own. You know,
Okay.
you're not allowed, any support that isn't available to the other riders.
I see. So I
So
can't have my wife coming along with the car.
no, no, she
She wouldn't
no.
anyway.
But if your wife said to the organizer, "I'm going to set up a table with a bunch of Gatorade at mile marker 50 and offer everyone a drink," they would be cool with that.
Oh, okay.
They would
Okay.
they would absolutely be cool with that. I mean, we are crying out for volunteers, especially for things like that. And you know, as long as the support is open to all the riders, they're cool. They're absolutely cool with that. So every single rider has the opportunity to go out and buy a camping bike packing stuff, in the same way that every rider has the ability to stop at the Holiday Inn at the halfway point.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no right or wrong decision there. It's just whatever that person wants to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and if someone wants to stop at the Holiday Inn and get a good 3-4 hours rest and a shower and a change of clothes, great. If someone wants to sleep in a bus station, in a bus depot or bus stop, have at it. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
You get back to the finish line at the end of these events, and there's the person that slept in the hedge, and then there's the person that's just rode 600 kilometers in 30 hours and not had any sleep, and then
Ooh.
there's a person who stopped for a 3-course meal, and then there's a person that just ate Nutrigrain bars all the way through it.
Right.
There's
Right.
no that it's You have to find a form. Part of the enjoyment for me is finding a formula that works for me, and what works for me may be totally different than what works for you.
Yeah.
But whatever works for you and gets you to that finish line, you get the same medal, the same accolade, the same achievement as everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. 30 hours straight through. That's Lyle Wilcox. Yeah. Uh-huh.
People do that. I mean, I'm too old for that nonsense, Gary. I
Yeah.
am too old. I've got to lay down somewhere.
Yep. All right. Now, are these typically paved road rides, or are they mixed surface? What?
For the most part, it is all asphalt based.
Okay.
We do have routes. We do have a couple of routes that veer onto gravel. But I'll tell you, the gravel in Missouri is not that great. They typically tend to be a lot of stony roads rather than like dirt roads.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very reticent myself to do gravel routes. But if you go out to Colorado or Wyoming, they are geared up for that kind of stuff, and they
Yeah.
do put on events that are gravel and multi-surface based.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's funny, and this is where we get into the differentiation between one of these qualifying events and just a regular Rooster event. Randonneurs USA, they will give you an extra time if it's gravel.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Audax Club Parisien, who are the governing body for these qualifiers that I keep talking about to the longer events, they give you no time allowance. So if it's a Rooster event, you may have 16 hours instead of 13 and a half to do a gravel event. Whereas Audax Club Parisien, they will still say no, 200 kilometers, you've still only got 13 and a half hours to do it. So
Okay.
but those are the minutiae of the trivial
Right.
details that you kind of get into when you start organizing this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think Rooster as an organization has recognized the fact that gravel and off-road riding is growing in popularity, and we have to change with the times.
Yes. Yes. So when it comes to an event, then, so I sign up.
Hmm.
First, I got to be a member of Randonneurs USA,
Hmm.
and then I sign up for your event, and then we all start at the same time, and then that's the extent of it. So then after that, it's however you get there, following the route at whatever pace, and then everybody ends up in the same spot, but not
Hmm.
necessarily at the same time by any stretch, I'm sure. And then
Hmm.
you're just simply on your own. Most people have a friend come with them. You said that. Now, see, for me, I do it all by myself because I'm just like that. But
I typically bring up the rear. I did on at our last event on Saturday because we had a bunch of new people come out, and I just wanted to bring up the rear. And there was one guy called Mason, super nice guy. It was the first time he'd ever done a century ride, let
oh,
alone ever done past that to 125 miles. And I I didn't want him to be on his own
yeah,
at the end, you know. So, but it was funny because I actually slowed down and stopped and let him catch up with me, and then a little bit of hills came up, and I started bonking, and he actually powered away from me. So it was me that finished dead last on my own, and not him. But that again, these are the stories that you tell after the event, and you know. But I typically want people to have fun. I don't want people to be stuck off the back on their own, struggling. Um, Not struggling per se, but just on their own riding a bike. You know,
right, right,
there has to be a little bit of sociability with it, and you want to know that someone out there is with you along the way, even if
right.
it's virtually, even if it's every time you check in at a gas station or whatever. People don't they want to know that there is someone with them,
Yeah,
and but but some people, as again, some people want that. Some people want to be left alone. I hate drafting off people's wheels. I,
mm-hmm.
I, I don't like it. I feel like if they break and I plow into the back of them, so I can't draft off people. So I will typically drop back and let them disappear over the next hill.
Yeah,
Because people are weird. I'm weird like that.
yeah,
People have their own foibles, and
right. Well, I like just being by myself, so I don't think any of that's so weird. I just enjoy that. For the most recent event, then a bunch of new people. Sounds like you've got a membership growing. Then,
knock on wood, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of guys from the east side. It was out of Edwardsville. I just hope they come back. I hope that they realize that this is a fun and demanding thing, but yeah, ultimately rewarding.
yeah,
Uh, and I know that Rome wasn't built in a day. I know it's going to take a long time to get this off the ground and get people to 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 enjoy what we're doing. And I also have to accept there's going to be people that come out, try it once, and realize it's not for them.
right.
And I have to maybe stop being so overbearing about it, and just, start saying, you I imagine going up to someone and saying, "Hey, do you want to ride 300 kilometers with me on Saturday?" I need to stop doing that because that just scares people off.
Yeah.
But
All right.
but
All right. So we need to wrap up here. So start this thing to motivate yourself to ride more. Has it worked?
yes, ultimately yes. I did two events last year, a 2 and a 300K. This year I've already done six events. I've ridden more. I've also gone out riding, scouting new routes more. Um, I've made friends. I've Kevin Bennett, um, Brian Wolf, Jason Stacy. These guys that have joined me along the way. I've made friends out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst Brian Wolf is a really super strong rider, I very typically don't ride with him because he's so strong and he leaves me in the dust. He's become a friend through this, even though we
Yeah.
don't ride together. he joins us for rides. I don't see him again till the finish.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think that's my biggest takeaway is that I've made friends I wouldn't have made had I not started this.
yeah. Well, benefit there then. So your next event is end of August, you said?
End of August. I think it's August 25th. I would check on my phone if I wasn't using it to talk to
Right.
you. But it's August the 25th. It's a tentative 7 o'clock start in the morning. It's a 200K event. It's on the farm roads of Montgomery County, Audrain County, and Callaway counties. Quiet farm roads. Sunday. It's on a Sunday. The only people you're going to share the roads with is the church crowd, and it's a really nice, quiet route.
Okay, so and for anybody who wants to give it a whirl, fairly flat too.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of hills, but they're short, sharp, steep hills. But I would say there's only three
Oh, okay.
of them, and they're not. For the most part, it's once you get away from the bluffs of the Missouri River, out towards Montgomery City and Vandalia, it's relatively flat.
Yeah.
But there's enough elevation change to let you freewheel every now and again.
Okay. Well, that counts. That counts.
Yeah. Sometimes you need a breather too.
Yep. All right. We're going to have to wrap this up. Matt Bird, St. Louis Randonneurs, stlrandonneer.org down there at the bottom of the screen. What a congratulations and bravo for getting this going. It's I think you're already reaching people, I can tell, and you have me intrigued. I'll say that.
We just ride our bike, man. We just ride it a little bit further than normal people, but if you're riding your bike, then you're doing it right, no matter what.
Yep. All right, Matt. Thanks so much, and thanks to everyone for joining us.